said the money to me, I am the one who would dance on the floor around. She says I am the one who would dance on the floor and around me.
That used to be the thing about America, was the fact that Hollywood, forget America, Hollywood used to, that's what we did better than anybody else in the world. We told a really good story, you know. Europe was where you had character-based films, but America, we told a story. We're the worst at it now, as far as I'm concerned. We don't tell a story, we tell a situation. And I'm not a Hollywood basher, because enough good movies come out of the Hollywood system every year to justify its existence, you know, but without any apologies. However, a good majority of movies that come out, all right, you pretty much know everything you're going to see in the movie by the first 10 or 20 minutes. Now, that's not a story. A story is something that constantly unfolds. I'm not talking about like this quick left turn or a quick right turn or a big surprise. I think an audience has like this umbilical cord to the screen, and it gets severed when confusion comes in.
And therefore you lose them.
Exactly. Most of the time, when I get confused and that's severed, it's basically because I'm not supposed to be confused. It's a mistake. However, there's no problem with being momentarily confused if you feel you're in good hands.
The obesity epidemic isn't real, and it shouldn't be an anti-capitalist talking point. When someone unironically references the obesity epidemic or even uses the word obesity, it tells me they really don't know what they're talking about when it comes to fatness. This use of the word obesity stems directly from the BMI, which was created by a eugenicist with no medical training who based the scale only on white bodies and cow math. Fatness is not an epidemic. Fat people existed before capitalism and before colonization. Fat phobia is a direct result of anti-blackness, and it has deadly consequences for many groups of indigenous folks and other people of color, as well as fat folks. When you make the obesity epidemic a real symptom of capitalism, you are not only ostracizing fat people from anti-capitalist thinking, but also actively ignoring that the health outcomes related to obesity are more accurately attributed to food deserts and fatphobic discrimination in healthcare. The obesity epidemic was created by Western medicine to avoid addressing the actual causes of health inequity, which is what we as anti-capitalists should be doing.
Don't let thin white people ever convince you there's only one way to live a happy life.
Let them know.
Ryan Stelter told us.
I resent you calling me a denier. That is a word meant to put me down. I'm a skeptic about climate change, and I want to make it darn clear Mr. Kenny's not a scientist. I am. He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now. Hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney, and yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform, and I regret it's become political instead of scientific, but the science is on my side.
I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion about the topic right here. What I do wonder, though, is when you see...
because you wouldn't allow it to happen on CNN, but I'm happy that I got on the air and got a chance to talk to your viewers. Hello, everybody. There is no global...
Why is the government lying to us about history? There is a civilization as recent as 100 years ago that was omitted from the history books called the Tartarian Empire, and it was technologically far superior. They were able to convert atmospheric pressure into electricity, and as a result of unlimited free energy, they were able to direct their focus towards unity, oneness, peace, love, and harmony, which we don't see in today's society as there is no profit for evil people in times of peace. Tartaria was a country with its own government, its own flag, and its own place on the map. Its territory was huge, covering over 3 million square miles, and if you look back far enough, the country exists on maps predating the 19th century. The Great Wall of China, which is located on China's northern border, is believed to have been built by the Tartarians, although history would say otherwise. There are openings on the wall that are only accessible from the north face of the wall, or from Tartaria. The world government destroyed an entire utopia and kept it hidden because they don't want humanity knowing that there is sustainability in the collective without the interference of heads of state.
People from the outside, they go, oh, you're exaggerating. Like, no, you need to go there. You need to go there and realize how bad it is.
Well, didn't Illinois just pass some new law?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
The crazy
the purge,
safety law. It's they're essentially eliminating cash bail for almost everything dangerous. Kidnapping, they're eliminating cash bail for second-degree murder. They're eliminating cash bail for murder through narcotics. So you could like overdose someone and drug them to death and no cash bail. Intimidating an official, like a federal official, or here it is. Here's the things. The law includes secondary murder, arson, so you could light a guy's house on fire, get right out of jail, drug-induced homicide, robbery, kidnapping, aggravated battery, burglary, intimidation, aggravated driving under the influence, fleeing and eluding drug offenses, and threatening a public official. No bail.
What? I'm from Illinois.
It's crazy. I mean, everyone's freaking out. I'm very concerned about the increase in violent crime. Again, I do want to stress there's still time to fix it. And the state's attorneys are working very hard. We have been for the last year and a half to fix this law. It's very fixable. We could still eliminate cash bail, but make sure the right people are in custody and everybody who's not in danger gets out, said State's Attorney Robert Berlin. Yeah, they're fucked because
there is a general sense out there that our city is in crisis. It's more difficult today for me to convince a promising McDonald's executive to relocate to Chicago from one of our other offices than it was just a few years ago.
Any remarks to counter the McDonald's CEO who says people are afraid to come back to the headquarters?
Well, I think that what would have been helpful is for the McDonald's CEO to educate himself before he spoke.
Wow. Wow.
I'm going to look on productive engagement and not look in the rearview mirror. Today, there's an article that I think is posted that prints a letter from the head of World Business Chicago that lays out in exacting detail all the good news, economic news about what's happening in our city. So I'm going to focus on those things and not the comments of the CEO of McDonald's.
Everywhere I go, I'm confronted by the same question these days. What's going on in Chicago?
What would have been helpful is for the McDonald's CEO to educate himself before he spoke.
So you get nothing. You lose.
I think that the future that China represents is not a future that is particularly desirable. I was struck by this when I was in Western Europe a few months ago. That I think the future is something that always has to be thought of in relatively concrete terms, and it has to be different from the present. And only something that's different from the present and very concrete can have any sort of charismatic force. And looking at Western Europe, I would say there are basically three plausible futures on offer. Number one is Islamic Sharia law, and if you're a woman, you get to wear a burqa. Number two is totalitarian AI a la China, where the computers track you in everything you do all the time, and that's kind of creepy, sort of the Eye of Sauron, to use the Lord of the Rings reference, right, watching you at all times. And then the third one is hyper-environmentalism, where you drive an e-scooter and you recycle. And even though I'm not a radical environmentalist, I think if those are the three choices, you can understand why the Green Movement's winning, because those are the three visions of the future we have.
Right.
And the challenge on the conservative or libertarian side is to offer something that's a picture of the future that's different from these two very dystopian and one somewhat stagnant one.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, America?
So did you hear the news? The Great Reset's about to start. Check it out. The stock market has dropped 20% and the bears are coming to rip your finances right out of their own assholes. And on top of that, the market in the UK and Europe is tumbling. The pound is worth almost as much as the dollar exactly. That's fucking unprecedented. Wow, holy shit. On top of that, the housing market is absolutely in the toilet. Minimum 20% down in just a month. That is fucking atrocious. And to add insult to injury, they're increasing interest rates, which isn't inherently bad in itself, but our government says it's going to cost jobs. Lots of fucking jobs, and there's nothing they can do about it coming up in the near future. I'm assuming after the fourth quarter's over with. So this is going to either be an awesome time to buy the dip or you're going to lose your ass.
There has been discussion today of fentanyl, and it irks me every time I hear someone talk about fentanyl overdoses, because no one overdoses on fentanyl, because I don't think anybody really sets out to like score some fentanyl for a good time. I get why it's hard to keep cocaine from coming into the country. People in the United States like using cocaine. They seek it out. They pay high dollar amounts for it. And so that would be something hard to stop. But since people don't set out to use fentanyl, since it's something we don't want in our country, we should be totally capable of stopping it. And the only reason we aren't is because we purposefully allow our border to degrade. Not by accident, not because of some lack of capability or some unsolvable problem set, but because there are some groups on the right and left who think that they will do better economically if we just let millions of people into the country and depress the wages of Americans. And the cost they're willing to pay for that are the funerals and the deaths and the broken lives as a result of fentanyl poisoning, because it is not an overdose. It is a poisoning that happens. Yeah, we're in the month of September, and I know all of us thought back to September 11, 2001, when we have to relive this day, and you think about thousands of Americans needlessly dying, and then us going off into like 20 years of wars in every Central Asian cave where there might be a terrorist hiding to avenge those thousands of lives. And I think today about the tens of thousands of lives that we are losing over and over again in every community in our country, and we seemingly like clutch our pearls at the suggestion that we might think about dropping off a few Tomahawk missiles in the Sinaloa Mountains where we know that fentanyl is being manufactured. So I don't think it was unreasonable for President Trump to ask the question about whether or not we ought to authorize the use of military force against the very people that are killing tens of thousands of Americans for stuff that we don't want. So I think it's a great fix to the Terry Act, but I think if we really want to get serious about what's harming far more than 232 Americans, we would get tough on the border and even tougher on the Sinaloa cartel. And I yield back.
I believe that we are in a war of ideas, and I believe that any parent who doesn't recognize that they're on a battlefield, that their children are ground zero in this effort, are going to lose. If we don't know that we're in a battle, how can we ever win it? If we don't recognize that there are people out there who are kind of progressive socialist neo-Marxists infiltrating the classroom, pushing their agenda, the media, academia, Hollywood, and all the rest, like if we don't recognize that this is an intentional effort on the part of people we vehemently disagree with, how are we going to win? We're going to forever be playing defense, trying to mitigate our losses as best we can, but never gaining ground.
When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, you know, Weird Town, you know, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them, and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like could it? And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think, it does rip your life to pieces.
Does it?
If you'll let it.
Yeah.
And it's always pounding at the walls. It's these little guys, these little heathens with no soul downstairs with horns on their head with a battering ram trying to like beat your walls in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take very long before you realize, or before it gets to you. It's cascading on you all the time. You can't get away from certain attitudes, from certain modes of behavior that this town and the industry dictate. And no matter how strong you are, when you come in off the farm with those convictions and a certain line of attack, no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this place. It's going to divert you from where you were going.
Sure.
You're going to be diverted. You'll eat yourself alive here. And I think it takes that kind of cockroach resilience to survive in this town. I mean, this is a bizarre place. The social contract. You can't get mad. You can't get mad. You can't let it get you, because you have to make a deal with everyone else, and it's almost unspoken that you are going to be fucked over at some point.
I mean, as a matter of interest, do you think it's easier because you're an outsider who came in?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it was glaring to me, because I was an outsider who came in.
People around the world are being torn out of their graves. What you are seeing are images from Louisiana, where the floods got so bad this year that the top 6 feet of soil got torn up and washed away, leaving caskets with bodies still inside of them, floating in the streets, washed out to sea, and even up to bloody trees. Cemeteries around the world are losing the fight against the elements, as seas, storms, and floods are unearthing bodies at an increasing rate. Ironic to say, but even the dead are now paying their price for their contributions to climate change. And arguably, an even more horrific consequence is this. In Northern Ireland, the formaldehyde from embalmed dead bodies was found in their drinking water system. Because of the floods, toxic, cancer-causing chemicals were being washed off of decomposing bodies in waterlogged coffins, streamed downhill and into their rivers. You wonder why Japan has a 99.9% cremation rate. But the question is, with the way that things are going, do you think we'll be seeing a lot more of this in the years to come?